The Dallas Cowboys are entering one of the most pivotal transitional periods in recent franchise history, and everything about this offseason signals a fundamental shift in philosophy. This isn't just about adding players or filling roster holes. This is about identity. This is about control. And most importantly, this is about a new coaching staff, led defensively by Christian Parker, reshaping the DNA of this team from the ground up. What stands out immediately is that this is no longer a front office dictating structure and forcing coaches to adapt. This is a coaching-led transformation. Parker, in particular, has been handed the keys to the defense, and the early returns suggest that the Cowboys are fully committed to letting him build this unit in his image. That matters more than any individual signing or draft pick, because it sets the tone for everything that follows. You can already see his fingerprints all over the roster decisions. The defensive line has gotten noticeably bigger, heavier, and more physical. The addition of Otito Ogbonnia, combined with the retention of massive interior presences like Quinnen Williams and Kenny Clark, signals a clear philosophical shift. This is about controlling the line of scrimmage first and foremost. It's about absorbing blocks, collapsing pockets from the inside, and forcing offenses into predictable situations. But that shift didn't come without cost. Trading away Osa Odigizwa and Solomon Thomas wasn't just about draft capital. It was about fit. It was about moving away from lighter, more penetration-based interior defenders and toward a heavier, more anchor-driven front. That's a risky move in today's NFL, where pass rush versatility is king, but it's also a bold declaration that Dallas is done being pushed around. And that philosophy extends beyond the defensive line. Look at the secondary, where the Cowboys made a conscious effort to add intelligence, toughness, and system familiarity. The signing of P.J. Locke is one of the most telling moves of the entire offseason. On paper, it's a modest one-year deal. But in reality, it's a strategic addition that could have an outsized impact. Locke isn't just another body in the safety room. He's a direct extension of Parker's system. Having played under him in Denver, Locke brings immediate understanding of the scheme, terminology, and expectations. That allows him to function as an on-field translator, accelerating the learning curve for the rest of the defense. And when you consider his resilience, coming back from spinal fusion surgery to continue his career, you're also adding a level of toughness and leadership that can't be quantified. Alongside Jalen Thompson and Kobe Durant, the Cowboys are clearly trying to rebuild a secondary that was absolutely torched last season. Giving up explosive plays at a historic rate forced this front office into action, and the response has been to prioritize communication, versatility, and reliability over flash. But here's the reality. This rebuild is far from complete. Even after trading for Rashawn Gary, the Cowboys still have a glaring issue at edge rusher. Gary is a solid player, particularly against the run, but he thrives as a complementary piece rather than a true game-wrecking force. That leaves a massive question mark at the most premium defensive position in football. There is hope in young talent like Donovan Ezeruaku, whose early pass rush metrics are promising. But relying on potential is a dangerous game, especially for a team that believes it should be contending right now. That's why the upcoming draft becomes absolutely critical. And this is where the coaching staff's influence becomes even more fascinating. The Cowboys have built strong internal connections, particularly with programs like Georgia, giving them unique insight into prospects that goes far beyond film study. When you have coaches who have worked directly with players, you gain access to information that scouting reports simply can't provide. Work ethic, football IQ, leadership. Those are the traits that often determine whether a day 2 or day 3 pick becomes a contributor or disappears entirely. Players like C.J. Allen suddenly make a lot more sense in that context. A linebacker with 3-down ability, strong instincts, and proven production fits a massive need for Dallas. Because right now, the linebacker room is one of the weakest units on the roster. Outside of DeMarvion Overshown, there's very little proven talent. Missing out on multiple free agent targets at the position has backed the Cowboys into a corner, and unless they make a late trade, the draft is their only real path to fixing it. And let's be clear, this is not a small issue. Linebackers are the connective tissue of a defense. They're responsible for run fits, coverage adjustments, and communication across the front seven. If that unit fails, everything else falls apart. This is why many projections, including those from Mel Kiper Jr., have the Cowboys going defense-heavy early in the draft. Names like Jermad McCoy at cornerback and C.J. Allen at linebacker represent not just talent upgrades, but structural fixes to glaring weaknesses. And if you're a Cowboys fan watching this transformation unfold, this is the moment where you need to stay locked in, because what happens next will define the next era of this franchise. If you're enjoying this kind of deep breakdown, make sure you subscribe and stay with us, because we're going to be tracking every move, every pick, and every ripple effect as this roster takes shape. Now, beyond personnel, there's another layer to this story that can't be ignored: the financial strategy. The Cowboys have gone all in on a win-now approach, aggressively restructuring contracts to create immediate cap space. Moves involving Terrence Steele, Rashawn Gary, and Kenny Clark weren't just about saving money. They were about reallocating resources to stay competitive in 2026. But there's a catch. By pushing money into future years through void deals and bonus conversions, Dallas is essentially borrowing from tomorrow to pay for today. It's a calculated risk, one that signals urgency. The front office believes this team can compete now, and they're willing to accept future consequences to make that happen. That kind of strategy only works if the results follow. Because if this defense doesn't improve significantly, if the draft picks don't hit, if the new scheme doesn't translate, then those financial decisions will come back to haunt them in a major way. And that brings us back to the central theme of this entire offseason: cohesion. Everything the Cowboys are doing, from signing players familiar with Parker's system to targeting specific body types on the defensive line, is about alignment. They're trying to eliminate the disconnect that has plagued this team in recent years, where talent existed but didn't always translate into consistent performance. This time, the goal is clarity. Defined roles, unified vision, and a roster built specifically for the scheme it's being asked to run. But cohesion alone doesn't win games. Execution does. And there are still plenty of unanswered questions. Can the pass rush generate consistent pressure without a true elite edge? Can the secondary hold up against top-tier quarterbacks? Can the linebacker unit stabilize in time? These aren't minor concerns. They're defining challenges. The Cowboys are betting that a combination of coaching, strategic roster construction, and smart drafting will be enough to overcome them. It's a bold bet. It's a risky bet. And it's one that will define not just the 2026 season, but potentially the entire trajectory of this franchise moving forward. Because if it works, Dallas could reemerge as a legitimate contender with a clear identity and a sustainable system. But if it doesn't, the consequences won't just be felt on the field. They'll echo through the salary cap, the roster, and the future of the organization for years to come. So as the draft approaches and the final pieces of this roster come into place, one thing is certain: the Dallas Cowboys are no longer playing it safe. They're pushing their chips to the center of the table. And now, we find out if they're right. If you want to stay ahead of every Cowboys move and understand what it really means, hit that subscribe button and join us for the full journey. Because this is just the beginning of a defining chapter in Dallas football.